guys, in this video, I'm going to rank every sword and melee in Sailor Piece. Before we get this tier list started, let me just say I have every sword and melee in the game, so I know what I'm talking about. Keep in mind, your opinion can be different from mine, and that's okay. But let's start with the tier list. Let's start with F tier. In F tier, these are the worst of the worst. And at the bottom of F tier, we have Combat. Combat has one move and does no damage, really. There's no reason you should be using this unless you're doing some quest for hockey. And above it, I would put the Katana. You know, the Katana, I would say, is a good upgrade from the Combat, but it's definitely the worst sword in the game. It's got 2 skills, but if you literally just started playing the game, I would actually recommend getting the Katana because it might help you out more than you think. But let's move on to D tier. So at the bottom of D tier, I'm actually going to put the Excalibur sword. The Excalibur sword has cool animations, I'll admit, but it's got a C skill with too long of a cooldown, and it does more damage than the Katana, which is mainly the only reason it's above here, besides having 3 skills. But above the Excalibur, I would actually put the Cursed Vessel. This melee is actually pretty solid. It's got some okay AoE and some decent damage. It's also easy to get early on, and I would recommend going for it. But above the Cursed Vessel, I am going to put the Vampire King. The Vampire King has actually pretty solid damage. The reason it's not any higher is because I don't think its AoE is all that. And at the top of D tier, I would put the Dark Blade. The Dark Blade is good for one reason. Its X skill has good AoE. If you angle the X skill properly, you will be able to take out 5 NPCs at once, making it a pretty good sword early on. Now let's move on to C tier. In C tier, we have stuff that is okay, but not great. At the bottom of C tier, we have the Griffon sword. You know, this sword is actually really good only for farming. So if you're an early game player, get this sword and you can probably just use the X skill and get max level just like that. But that's probably the only use this sword has. But it's still a good use. Now, above the Griffon sword, I will put the Cursed King. The Cursed King does decent damage, and you can even get, I believe you can get a clan to upgrade your Cursed King damage, which is pretty good. It's also got some decent AoE, especially with the X skill. But above the Cursed King, I will put the Limitless Sorcerer. I think the Limitless Sorcerer does more damage, at least when I tested it, which is why I put it above the Cursed King. But above the Limitless Sorcerer, I would put Quinn Shi. This melee is actually pretty solid, and you can get it immediately if a rich player donates you 250 boss tickets. It's got good AoE with its V skill and does decent damage. I would recommend getting this if you can afford it. Above Quinn Shi, I would put the Solo Hunter sword. This sword does decent damage and has some decent AoE. I also like the V effects, but I'm not going to put it any higher. Above the Solo Hunter sword, I will put the Soul Reaper sword. The Soul Reaper sword is actually a really good sword, guys. It costs 500 boss tickets, so like Quinn Shi, if a rich player donates you boss tickets, you can get this basically immediately. And above the Soul Reaper sword, I would put the Shadow sword. The Shadow sword has solid AoE and solid damage. But I'm going to be honest, you're using this sword because you're trying to get the atomic sword, but it's still a solid option. Now, above the Shadow sword, I would put the Dragon Slayer sword. This sword is actually the rarest item to get in the game. This is because you could have only gotten it during the 2025 Christmas event. You know, being the rare sword and all, it's horrible for damage and farming, but it's actually got more damage than a few other swords here. But I can't put it any higher simply because there's better options. Speaking of better options, we have the Manipulator sword. The Manipulator sword, it's good actually. I like the C skill, I believe, which has decent AoE, and the V skill is also pretty solid. But like the Shadow sword, you're only using this because you don't have the true Manipulator just yet. Now let's move on to B tier. B tier are things that are good, but not great. At the bottom of B tier, we have the Love Maiden. It's similar to the Dragon Sword because it was a limited time item. You can't get this besides trading. It's also kind of rare. It has some decent AoE and decent damage, but it's not anything to lose your mind over. But above the Love Maiden, I'm going to put the Sin of Pride. The Sin of Pride is pretty solid. Its V skill has decent AoE, and it does good damage. Overall, this sword is actually pretty good. But above the Sin of Pride, I will put the Slime Sword. The Slime Sword, it's got some good damage, and I love its AoE. Its F skill has some pretty nice AoE to it, and its V skill also has slightly okay AoE, but its damage is also really good. But let's wrap up D tier with the Shadow Monarch sword. This sword, it's actually a grind to get, bro. I'm not gonna lie. For the grind it takes to get the Shadow Monarch sword fully upgraded, it's not worth it, but it's definitely better than everything else so far on the list. Now let's move on to A tier. In A tier, we have items that are great. I would recommend that most of you guys go for these items. So at the bottom of A tier, we have the strongest in history melee. This melee is really good if you're AFKing 5 NPCs because its X skill has a large AoE with a very short cooldown. It's also good if you're an active player as well. I would recommend you guys aim for this if you can. Above the strongest in history, I will put the Demon King. The Demon King is pretty solid actually. It has good AoE and it does massive damage. If you guys can get this, I would, but keep in mind there are better options, such as the strongest of today. The strongest of today has two great skills, being the V skill, which has a stupidly good AoE. Its F skill is also really good too. Overall, you should probably get this if you want to do some infinite tower, dungeons, or boss rush if you're an early game player. But above it, I would put the Yamato sword. This sword, it does good damage, but I just don't like its lack of AoE. It's definitely the best sword by far so far in my opinion, but I just can't put it any higher because the swords above this are objectively in a different tier. But let's wrap up A tier with the Corrupted Excalibur. This melee does a great amount of damage. I love its VFX. It probably has my favorite VFX in the game. Its V skill is spammable and it's got some decent AoE and short cooldowns to it. Overall, I would say it's not a bad idea to get this melee, but there are actually better options. Let's start with S tier now. In S tier, we have items that are phenomenal. At the bottom of S tier, we have the Blessed Maiden. This melee does good damage. It's got good AoE and it's got short cooldowns. It's also decently easy to get considering that you only need Tempest Relics and to defeat the Blessed Maiden a bunch of times. Definitely get this melee because it does a lot of damage. But above the Blessed Maiden, I will put the King of Heroes. Now the King of Heroes might do less damage than the Blessed Maiden, but the King of Heroes is probably the best thing in the game to AFK with. This is because the V skill has very good range and it lasts for a while, and it also has a super short cooldown. I would actually recommend as a must get if you plan on AFKing the Atomic boss especially. But above the King of Heroes, I will put the Moon Slayer melee. This melee does more damage than the King of Heroes and Blessed Maiden, at least from my testing. This makes it good for boss killing, so pick this up if you guys can. Above the Moon Slayer, I will put the True Manipulator sword. This sword still does crazy damage to this day. It's also a slightly older sword at this point, but it's still a sword worth getting. So if you guys can, get this sword. Now, above this, I would put the Atomic sword. This sword has good AoE and does consistently great damage. It's also kind of easy to get, but not really. It's a little bit of a grind to get. The Atomic sword is worth getting because of its good AoE and its high damage. The reason it's above the True Manipulator sword is simply because it's more consistent. Now above the Atomic sword, I would put the Strongest Shinobi melee. This melee is great, really great. Its V skill does a good amount of damage with a good amount of AoE. It's really good if you want to do Infinite Tower especially. I would 100% recommend picking up this melee. Now above the Strongest Shinobi, I would put the Abyssal Empress. This sword is really good. It's slightly easy to get, but it's mainly based on your luck. If you AFK Infinite Tower enough, you'll get it. Now the reason this sword's really good is because during the F skill, you can spam every other skill, which makes it do a stupid amount of damage. Now at the top of S tier, we have the Great Mage sword. This sword is phenomenal. I love its V skill. It's very spammable and does a very, very high damage. However, even though it's insanely good, it's not Sailor tier. Let's move on to Sailor tier. Sailor tier is the best of the best. At the bottom of Sailor tier, we have the Ice Queen sword. Now, after the Great Mage has been buffed a few times, I think it does more damage than the Ice Queen, but the Ice Queen is used for Sea Beast AFK, which is meta right now. You 100% need to use the Ice Queen sword if you want to farm Sea Beast. Just because of that makes it a Sailor tier sword. Now above the Ice Queen, we have the World Melee. This melee does stupidly high damage. Its AoE is also really good. I think they did Dio justice in this game, and it's definitely worth getting if you guys can. But above the world, we have the Dragon Goddess Sword. This sword is the highest damage dealing sword in the game. It's got great VFX, great AoE, and overall, you guys probably want this sword if you're using a sword build. But now, let's talk about the best thing in the game, in my opinion. This item is the best thing in the game because of its stupidly broken damage and cooldowns. We have the Cosmic Being. The Cosmic Being, in my opinion, is the best thing in the game right now. Its damage is second to none. Its cooldowns are surprisingly low. The only bad thing about this melee is that you have to defeat the Cosmic Being boss, which spawns every 30 minutes. But even though it's hard to get, it is most definitely worth getting. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Remember, be an angel, and until next time.